Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Michael with One Mic Out, and it's crazy um, when we ask ourselves the question, can how can it possibly get any worse? And then 13 service members are killed, almost 200, civilians killed, and it was all completely 100% avoidable and unnecessary. I actually just got done doing one of this video, and for almost 30 minutes, and uh, went to play it back and realized the microphone wasn't on, and so it was just nothing but silence. And so I'm you know trying to retrace my thought process of it all, but it's relatively the same in terms of we have a president who is clearly incompetent and on mental decline, and who shouldn't be in office, and whatever side of the aisle you're on. I mean, any human being who grew up in American culture, or at least first world culture, I should say, and by that I mean who understands the way our democracy works and the way everything is laid out for us, should be able to discern and understand when they see someone who is incompetent and unable and unfit to lead and to be the leader of what everyone, up until probably recently, we were, the world's greatest power. Are we still? Yes, but we're a world's greatest power with a captain of the ship who's asleep, because he's just too old to do the job. It's the world's greatest, it's the greatest ship, that is being steered by who knows who, who knows who is at the helm of this thing, because it certainly is not Biden. Um, the disastrous call to pull the military out first, um, to only realize the Taliban was making advances much faster than the Biden administration had thought possible. When I was just in Afghanistan earlier this year, back beginning of March, late February, and was there last year, and we would sit around and talk, and like, hey, how long do you think it'll take once we're gone for this government to fall, for the military to fall? And we all, you had some people who said 3 years, you had other people who said like a year. I believe I said somewhere around 3 months, and we were all wrong. It ended up being much faster, much quicker. Um, but the what we all knew is that it would fall, that it would happen, and so contracts were being extended. Military DoD contracts are being extended out to 2022, 2023, and beyond, because there was still going to be a train assist and advise role. The U.S. was still going to have that role with the Afghan military. We were still going to be involved with the Afghan Air Force, with the ANA, with the ASG, with everyone, to help them maintain what they had as best as we possibly could. That helped them maintain their aircraft, to help them maintain their vehicles, weapons, all that kind of stuff. Um, but we knew that they would eventually flee, without our help, without our support, and we knew that we couldn't stay there forever. That's not our job. However, what we could do was help assist them from afar, with the support that, hey, if anyone tried to advance in and be opportunistic and try and take over the government uh, that we helped to establish, they would be met with the full force of the United States military, the backing of that. Maybe not troops on the ground, but airstrikes and things like that. Um, if it came to that. But May 1 was the original deadline that Trump made. Trump made the deal, and in that deal, it emphasized: listen, we're GTFOing, we're getting out. We've been here for way too long. We've helped you as best as we possibly can, and other than us purely full on invading and making Afghanistan a state. Um, they were not going to be able to sustain. We couldn't sustain them any longer at taxpayer dollars. So Trump came up with the deals like, hey, we're gonna help the government as best as we can from afar. We'll extend these contracts and we'll keep make sure the Air Force and everything is up and running to the best that we could do from afar. But with the Taliban, he was like, listen, we're getting out. It's time. This is the deal. If you hurt or harm any U.S. military service members, you'll be met with, we're not going anywhere. We're going to annihilate you. We're going to stay here. We're going to make your life a living hell like we've been doing for the last 20 years. In that deal, it wasn't free reign. You have free reign on all Afghan civilians. That wasn't part of the deal. The deal was you weren't going to be attacking any military or Afghan forces or civilians. But yes, the key emphasis on that was American military service members because too many had been lost already. And America has to come first in that regard. But strikes were still being conducted. We were still, anytime anything would happen and one of the RTTs or whatnot, a certain task force would go out and they would assist, the local Afghan unit who they were assisting or PD, police department, or whatnot in conducting certain operations to quell that uprising of Taliban in that certain district or province or area or whatnot. So the deal wasn't just, hey, don't attack Americans. You can attack whoever the hell you want, just not Americans. We're getting out. It wasn't that. However, the goal was we're getting out. And it was going to be a 4-step phase process, where it was going to be getting U.S. civilians out and allies and diplomats, followed by destroying the weapons and military installations like Herat, Mazar-i-Sharif, Mez, Kaf, potentially Bagram, if it looked like the Taliban was going to be advancing in on those areas. And then ultimately it was going to be getting the military out. So that was the plan. You weren't going to pull just the military out first and then go, oh shit, the Taliban's advancing faster than we thought. We got to get everyone out of the embassy. Let's send those troops right back. And then it turns into the mass extraction event that we saw with what was going on. So that was Trump's plan essentially, and Biden, like I said, Biden's plan was ridiculous. He's an incompetent fool. And there's 81 million people who are super silent right now. I was much more angry in my last video, so it's probably best that I didn't have the volume on because I was pissed, and I'm still pissed. But there's a certain process that we follow that the military follows when we're leaving a country. We have experience with that with Iraq. You look at cost comparison. Taxpayer dollars are a thing, and yes, the government wastes billions upon billions of taxpayer dollars a year, but they want to use that money for other things that they're going to waste it on, and so they look at, hey, what's the cost of bringing that equipment back? We've already spent so much money on it to get it there, and we used it. Is it worth bringing it back to only have it just turn into shit when it comes back? And what's the transportation cost going to be and everything bringing it back? So a lot of times we just leave that equipment and you take out anything that's in it. You do one of two things. You sell it to, the allies, the allied country that you're leaving, so like, for example, Iraq, we sold them a lot of old used Humvees and MRAPs and things like that and other equipment. And with Afghanistan, the same thing. We sold them a lot of equipment, and then we also were a middleman with them in talks with other, Lockheed and things like that, so they could acquire their own different aircraft and helos and MD-530s and AC-208s and M29s and UH-60s, and Mi-17s and things like that, we kind of helped vector them where they should go to purchase those things. And so you have a lot of people talking about like, oh, they took our military equipment. No, they didn't. The Taliban did. That equipment actually belonged to the Afghan Air Force and the Afghan military. And we knew that was going to happen. Normally, what we'll do is if we say, hey, we're going to leave this equipment or sell it to that country, we'll remove all the sensitive items out of it, all the crypto, any equipment that can hold crypto and things like that, and we'll either take that all out and then make the vehicle inoperable, or leave it there and whatnot. But if it comes down to anything that could hold classified information or anything like that, we destroy the vehicle, or the platform, whatever it is. And so, knowing how fast that the military would fall, the moment they started fleeing, and it became evident that the Taliban was going to be able to acquire and take possession of these things, strikes should have been conducted. Airstrikes should have been conducted. Like Tim Kennedy said, like the entire hierarchy of the Taliban in one place in the presidential palace, and it could have been struck. You could have destroyed that palace and all the Taliban government in one strike, and at one time, and nothing happened. Which makes you question a lot. There's a lot to question. Just like I said the other day, like when you look at 9/11, I think we're at a point to where there's so much that has transpired and so much information that has come out in the 20 years since, that we can look at it and go, wait a minute, we have a few questions. Some things don't add up. And I think you can look at Afghanistan, it's the same thing. You look at certain calls that were made, especially in the last, since January 20th and Biden taking office, a lot of weird calls have been made. A lot of weird shit's happened. You have Biden, who's essentially admitted to being a puppet president by saying he's, every time he gets up to talk in front of anyone, he says, I've been instructed to call on you. I was told I can't take questions. It's like he's just an old man in an assisted living home, the most expensive assisted living home in the world, the White House. And so, again, if you're a liberal, you lean to the left, but if you have a brain on you, then you should be able to tell that he's not fit to be president. And this is my thing, like for as equal as you were voting for against Trump, because no one was voting for Biden. They were just voting against Trump because they hated Trump, because they hated his tan, his spray tan. They hated his toupee, his hair. They hated his mean tweets, the way he talked, all that superficial shit. But he actually got shit done. But people, they just hated the superficial shit. And, I'm going to have a point here. They show that they follow the masses. They follow whatever their liberal media tells them to follow. And the greatest enemy to any group of followers, like a zombie horde, is just they're following. They're just, like that's like the liberal left. They're just a zombie horde following one person that's directing them, Pied Pipering where to go. The greatest threat to that are free thinkers, people who think for themselves. And the point that I'm getting at is, you had people who voted against Trump, but if you fast forward now, and with everything that Biden has done, raised inflation, raised gas prices, gotten Americans killed, gotten Afghan innocents killed, for as much as all that, you should be equally as pissed off and saying, how dare this guy? You should be equally against Biden. And if you're more pissed off about a tweet than you are about what Biden has done since he's taken office, then you're a bona fide piece of shit. You're a low-life human being. And that's just the matter of it. That's the matter of it. Your hatred for Trump, if it trumps what Biden has done, and you're giving Biden a pass, and you're not calling for his resignation, impeachment, or a 25th Amendment to be invoked, then you're a piece of shit. You truly are. Like, that is what the meaning of that analogy, that's what that is. Or that metaphor, I should say. That's what you are. And the point I'm going to make is, here you have the vaccines, right? And I'm seeing memes go out. I'm seeing people talk about how, like liberal left people, Democrats, saying to right wingers, your precious Trump got it. Your precious Trump got the vaccine. Why won't you get the vaccine? Almost saying, we don't understand why you aren't following your great leader. We follow ours. We blindly follow ours. Why won't you follow yours? What is wrong with you? And do you not see how right then at that those little comments and posts and things like that, you're outing yourself as being a blind follower. You're outing yourself as not being a free thinker and thinking for yourself. This has nothing to do with politics when it comes to those who wish not to get the vaccine. And it has everything to do with just their health. There's so many questions still to be answered. And people, before they go get something that's not truly tested yet, before they go get that injected into their body, they're wanting some questions answered at the risk of contracting COVID again. And that's how serious they are about that, because they don't know what the long-term effects are going to be from this thing. We don't know what the long-term effects of COVID are going to be. However, those who have had COVID and gotten over it and feel healthy now, they're saying, okay, I've had it. I got over it. It sucked, but I'm good now. Before I go put something unknown into my body, where other people who are getting the vaccine are still getting some, a lot of them are still getting sick. Some have died, so they're still spreading it. Before they're like, well, when I go do this all for naught, and get the poke, can I just wait a little bit to see? Because I don't want to be caught up in a class action lawsuit 10 years from now that says, did you receive the Pfizer or the Johnson & Johnson or the Moderna COVID vaccine back in 2021? If so, you might be blah, blah, blah for a class action lawsuit or whatever. Like that, like it's those things, the harmful shit that it can cause your body. Did you go blind because of COVID vaccine? Did you lose your left arm because of COVID vaccine? Did you get a brain tumor because of COVID vaccine 10 years ago or whatever? Well, if so, that's it. It's not anti-vaxxers. I'm not anti-vax. I was in the freaking military. Excuse me. I had 1,000,001 different vaccines, that I had to get, at the time, that some were FDA approved and some weren't, and it sucked. And I don't know what the long-term effects are those. And so you have some people going, well, you got it when you're in the military. Why not just get this one? Okay, sure. Let me add just another one to the mix. I can actually control getting this one. Those other ones I couldn't. I was in a dictatorship in the military. I was in a monarchy. I couldn't do what I wanted to truly do at that time. I'd volunteered to, be told what to do. Now you actually can say, yeah. So that's the point I'm making. Liberals have outed themselves as being blind followers. They'll believe the media and anything their politicians tell them, and they won't free think for themselves. They'll just question everyone else who isn't blindly following like they are, and then they'll segregate them and they'll shame them and do all that kind of stuff, because that's what they do. They try and peer pressure you because that's what happened to them. So that zombie horde, is being pied piped by one person somewhere, and that's what's happening. And going back to a volunteer force, Biden go and meet the bodies at Dover and check his watch, not once, not twice, not thrice, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 9, not 10, not 11, not 12, but 13 different times, with each body in between, each body getting unloaded off that plane. He checked his watch. It wasn't once. It was 13 times. Every single body, after they were going down the ramp, he checked his watch. Piece of shit. Disrespectful piece. And he doesn't give a shit. Biden truly has never given a shit. The plagiarism, that he's done, the lying that he's done, the sexual shit that he's been involved with that got swept under the rug. So much stuff that, there's so much stuff. He just should not be president. And it's embarrassment that he is. And look what he's doing. Your gas prices are up. If you voted for him, you did that. Inflation's up. You voted for him. You did that. 13 service members killed. You voted for him. You did that. That was you. That was you. And the only way that you can get any sort of credibility back is if you openly call for his resignation or impeachment if you voted for him. If not, you're just a piece of shit. But going back to the voluntary force thing, we're a voluntary military that we are the only one in the world. We don't have any selective service and things like that to where it's like you have to do 2 years or anything like that out of college or high school. But the thing with that is you get the excuse, and in these speeches, they willingly gave their life. They sacrificed themselves. They gave the ultimate sacrifice. Well, just because they did doesn't mean they should have. And just because they're voluntary doesn't mean you get to use that as a scapegoat to send them and use them and make them expendable at your own will. Because that saves the face for them to say, well, they weren't necessarily forced into doing that. They chose to serve their country. They chose to die for their country. They weren't forced into it through selective service. They weren't forced into it. We didn't make them go there. They chose to do this. That choice does not mean you have the ability to make me expendable because of your poor decisions. We're supposed to trust our leaders. We're supposed to have faith in our leaders. And I think all faith has been lost in Biden. Only one officer has stood up and spoken up openly against this. The only person to get fired in this whole thing so far, the only person is one Marine lieutenant colonel who wasn't even there, who chose to speak out, I should say, and say, I have no faith in President Biden, no faith in his leadership, and no faith in the administration and his cabinet and everything. And he's the only one. He gets taken from his, they say, hey, you know what, we're going to go ahead and just remove you from your duties, let you coast out for the next 3 years. He's at 17 years, and then, you'll retire and get full benefits. And he said, screw that. He resigned and said, I'll forfeit all my benefits and everything. And that's a lot. And that should show you something, but the problem is when you have these drones who these zombies, these liberal zombies who just are mindless, who are followers, blind followers. The reason we have such a job crisis right now too is none of them want to work because $600 a week or however much it is, they're comfortable. People are so comfortable, and as long as we are comfortable, no one's going to do anything about anything because you're just comfortable. And as long as they're comfortably living, and you don't molest their situation, their current living situation, they're not gonna be willing to fight. And so that's why it's at such a the scale is just in favor of the other so much, because there's so many. Like I said, it's like a zombie horde. I'm telling you, every zombie movie you ever watched, there's just countless zombies, taking on 6 people, and those 6 people are the ones with the guns. And they're trying to kill all the mindless zombies because those mindless zombies are the ones who are ruining life as we know it. And that is what is happening. The liberals I equate to zombies. They are zombies. And until one of them grows a pair and gets their conscience back and their common sense back and starts speaking out and bringing trust and faith back to the real Democratic Party, what it used to represent, what it used to be, and not this bullshit woke shit that we see now, BLM and all this other woke shit, LGBTQ and whatever the hell, when those aren't their priorities, those are just votes that, and then, to put into power to do what? To tell you a bunch of lies so then we can just jack your cost of living. That's why that's why it's hard to live in California and everyone's moving. That's why gas, again, I've heard in some places it's $8-9 a gallon. You did that. You voted for him. You did that. Because you didn't want to put up with mean tweets. You could have easily turned off the news, unfollowed, done away with your Twitter account. Who gives a shit? Is that worth money out of your pocket to have to pay more for gas, for a gallon of milk? Oh well, almond milk, I should say, for you guys who are vegan. It's ridiculous. You guys are crazy. You're bona fide crazy, and you're nothing but that zombie horde. Again, in my last video, I was much more angry, so I'm glad I'm not, because I was mad. I was pissed. I'm currently dealing with trying to get one more guy out that I know of Afghanistan right now. Here's his letter of recommendation that I had to send up to the State Department. We're trying to get him out. And you know how gut wrenching it is that I had to send him maps, evasion maps, egress maps, out of Afghanistan to avoid the Taliban strongholds and the Taliban checkpoints. You know how gut wrenching that is. Someone I knew, you know, I've known for 11 years, you know, and now, you know, it was just for the last week has been pleading, help get me out, help get me out. And powerless, powerless, you know. And I know a lot of you won't understand that. A lot of experience, armchair quarterback experience, a lot of you have is just this social media, is this reading about it every day. We're more exposed to it and just reading about it. Finding a meme and reposting it and believing it and then finding out it's not true. And that goes for both sides. But that's the amount of experience you have. Or maybe you did serve. And if you did serve, and maybe you did 4 years, maybe you're in the Navy, you live in California, you're from Salt Lake City, Utah, and you have red hair, and you're just a piece of shit. But you have a lot of witty remarks and comments, you know, but you only did 4 years and you really didn't do anything when you were in, but you speak as though you did. Hey, that's your right. You get to do that. And you know what? Good for you. Good on you for being able to speak your mind, because there's a lot of people in Afghanistan now who can't, because there's an oppressive government that has taken over because of your guy, and now their rights are gone because of your guy, the guy that you talked all about, the guy that you hyped up, the guy that you thought was going to be the savior of your party, the savior of America. And now look what's happening. Like I said, I was pissed off yesterday and today. But 13 lives. 13. Unacceptable. Unnecessary. 13 lives. What I will say this to my to those who think along the same lines of me. Again, I'm not a Republican. I'm unregistered. Stop perpetuating these memes. There's the meme of the dogs that got left behind. Take that momentary pause. Wait for some more info to come out before you start reposting stuff. And it goes, because then it gets shot up, and bless Donald Trump Jr.'s, you know, heart, and you know a lot of these other right wing, I guess, figure you know, personal public figures, I should say. They like to fire away and retweet things that probably shouldn't get repost and things like that. They should find out first if it's true or not. Because we don't want to be the shock and awe sensationalist party. That's the left. They like to share shit that's false. You know, I'd say wait, let it come out so before you do that, because then it just gives the other side ammunition. Don't be that blind follower. Think for yourself. You know, I've disagreed with a lot of what Dan Crenshaw has had to say in the past. Lately, what he's been saying, I align with. But there's a lot of times where I don't agree, and there's times that I do, you know, and there's times on the left, you know, that I agree and I don't agree. Be a free thinker. Don't base your thinking pattern on one party or the other. Base it on your common sense. But 13 service members who did not need to die, and they died due to incompetence and an illegitimate president who should not be in office. Anyway, this is Mike with One Mike Out. I'd say go like the number one Mike Out on Instagram, YouTube. It's One Mike Out spelt out. You can find it on Facebook as well. There's a podcast that's up on Podbean, iHeart, I think Pandora. I think it's on Pandora. It's not on iTunes yet, or maybe it's on iTunes. I can't remember. It's one of them. You can search it. It's somewhere out there. I'll get it up. But anyway, 13 lives is too many. And again, if you voted for Biden and you don't speak out against him now, you are a giant, colossal piece of shit. This is Mike with One Mike Out.